Do you think we know everything there is to know about the moon? I like that answer. But let's do a little experiment, shall we? Imagine that you are a space alien from another planet outside our solar system, and you have been tasked to retrieve samples from this pale blue dot. But the catch is, you can only pick 10 because you only have one shot. And you have to do it as a flyby. So you randomly pick your samples. You go back to your home planet and you analyze them. And the conclusion is that the pale blue dot is a water world. Amazing! That's totally true. But as an Earthling, I'm a little bit annoyed by that, because it doesn't completely explain exactly what the Earth's dynamic history is like. So let's think about the moon again. In just over 50 years, through exploration using humans and robots, we've managed to sample only 10 locations on the moon. I don't think that's enough. So I'm here to convince you that we should try to get a few more samples, but in order to do that, I need to start at the beginning. You need to understand how the moon formed and how it's evolved over time. A long, long time ago, in a galaxy right here, a solar system was born, our solar system. About 100 million years after that, there was a body that was the size of Mars, and we call it Theia. And it violently slammed into our proto-Earth, spewing a whole bunch of material out into orbit around the Earth and turned into a ring that made the Earth look like Saturn. That material in orbit around the Earth, that ring, very quickly clumped into what we now know as the moon. At that point, the moon and the Earth were molten balls of lava. Those primitive bodies cooled off, and we had a very smooth, solid surface, kind of like a starting point, if you will. This is the near side of the moon. The red spots on here are the 10 locations from where we have samples. These 10 locations, they're spread across the equatorial region. They mostly have sampled the dark mare regions of the moon. And the reason they were picked was because they were safe landing spots. Now, if these are our 10 spots, and this is the side of the moon we're looking at, we can assume that the entire moon looks like this. I would beg to differ. This is the far side of the moon, not the dark side of the moon. Pink Floyd got that wrong. This is the far side of the moon. This is the side of the moon we cannot see from Earth. This is the side of the moon that no human on Earth ever saw before the 1960s. This is an amazing image, and it's fantastic, but we can see that if we only had the samples from the other side, we wouldn't know what this side looks like. These images are fantastic, but they skip out on information like composition and time. If we only have 10 samples, we're not going to be able to do much in terms of getting composition. But because those images are so fantastic, we can actually do something and learn about time. How do we do that? Craters. Turns out that in our solar system, the most common geologic process is not volcanoes, it's not earthquakes. Turns out it's impact. Bodies colliding together, breaking apart, and causing the formation of craters on the surfaces of other planets. So you can see, when we flatten out the whole globe, you can see the entire surface of the moon at the same time. You can see there's variation. Some super clever people worked out that you could actually turn this crater building over time into a clock. And that is what I'm here to talk to you about today. And I'm going to show you some things by focusing in on those two areas. We're going to zoom in on those two white rectangles. So this is our first rectangle. First, I want to set the scale for you. From top to bottom, that's about 1,200 kilometers. What you see on this particular image of the far side is a lot of craters. You see circles. You see big ones, you see small ones, you see some that have really distinct rims, you see some that are really degraded. You even see some that have craters inside of them. In contrast, this is from the near side of the moon. What you can see right away is that there are fewer craters. So you're asking yourself, yeah, Gretchen, that's really cool, but how does that turn into a clock? Well, what I know is that I can say with certainty that the dark gray area of this image is younger than the light gray area of this image because I can see that there are fewer craters on the surface in the dark gray area. And that's where time comes in. You have to count craters. We're going to do a little experiment again. So we're going back to our old surface, and we're going to say, well, if we're going to count craters, let's make it an easy task first. Let's only count craters that are bigger than 5 kilometers in diameter. That little tiny orange dot, that's a 5-kilometer crater. I'm randomly picking things, and my brain is kind of biased by the end, and I'm picking only small things. I give up, I quit, I'm done. That's 53 craters. What I want you to notice is that, number one, there's way more than 53 craters on this image. And number two, that there is a variation in the sizes. But you can see that there are a lot more small craters than big craters. So what we need to do is figure out how we're going to do that for the entire surface of the moon. Believe it or not, up until really recently, people counted by hand. There were some really tenacious folks, one in particular, way more patient than I am, who actually counted 1.3 million craters on the surface of the moon. And that is craters bigger than 1 kilometer. Now, you know from the image that I showed you that there are a lot more smaller craters. So, if we are going to count everything on this surface, we are going to need a new method. The method we can apply is called machine learning, because it turns out you can teach a computer to recognize features. A human counted 1.3 million craters. The computer counted, ready for it, 247 million craters on that same surface, down to 50 meters in diameter. That's the correct response. We love our computers. They're so helpful. But what's really interesting about this is not so much that it counted all these craters. This image is now taking us from that grayscale image to essentially an age map, because every pixel in this color-coded map has knowledge that we can convert to an age. The colors here represent sizes of the craters. So the kind of reddy orange colors are smaller craters, and the blue colors are the larger craters, but we're only counting up to craters that are 200 meters in diameter. But what you can see is that we're seeing some of the same features that we saw on the grayscale image, but we're seeing more detail. We're seeing more variation, and more variation helps us get our clock going. I'm going to zoom in so that I can show you the real magic of this technique. So here's our earlier image where we looked at the two big variations of lighter gray and darker gray, and we could tell that one was younger than the other. On the right-hand side is that same area with the computer counts. What you can see is that there is a very big difference between the light gray and the dark gray, but within the dark gray, which on the left-hand image looks flat, looks like there's no variation, you see a lot more variation. That variation can be converted into a history of lava flows on that surface that we weren't aware of in the past. This amazing data set has revealed that we can map the moon in a whole new way by determining its ages. We can use this information to help us unravel the evolution of the moon. I think that I may have shown you that we need far more than 10 samples because there's so much about the moon that we don't fully understand. Even though it is right there and we see it all the time, there's still so much we can learn about it. The moon truly is the next step in exploring the final frontier. Thank you.